Is Bitcoin heading for a move down? Flash crash incoming? Let's get into the charts. Welcome back to Max Trades Crypto. Today we're going to be going over our only 4-hour scenario at the moment. But before we do hit the subscribe button down below and leave a comment and maybe join the Discord to even put your analysis through. So, starting on the 4-hourly time frame, and to answer the question that I just posed in the beginning of the video, the likelihood that Bitcoin does see lower prices in the next coming days is high, right? We are looking at currently on the 4-hour scenario a W to the downside, an X up, and a Y to the downside, right? A WXY is often built of 3 wave structures. You can see here 3 waves in W, 3 waves in X, and now we are looking for 3 waves in wave Y, right? That is how a WXY is often built, but this is something similar to an expanded flat where we have a W, an X that takes the high of W here, and then a Y to the downside that targets quite a lot lower. So in this Y to the downside, we can look even further and say, okay, the probability at the moment is that we have headed down in this big move to the downside here. Likelihood that it is 5 waves is high, and we have made a structure towards the upside that looked corrective, right? So what the bulls were looking for in this scenario is they were looking for a 1 2 1 2 and then a big break to the upside. But the problem is now that the price has broken this prior low, right? That means the 1 2 1 2 is invalidated, and now we have a very sideways ranging structure here, as you can see, right? So if we then think, where is this then heading? We had a big move to the downside first, followed by a corrective structure, and now for the bears we are likely to see a 1 2 3 4 and wave 5. The targets for this wave Y down sit at the 1.618 at 98,174, right? Then the target for the wave C, so measuring from this wave A to the high of B to this wave C here, the target for the wave C sits at $93,543. This is quite a bit lower than I do expect, and I don't expect us to maybe get to this number here, but touching that $98,000 for me is quite a high likelihood. Now, if we zoom in even more on our 4-hour scenario, we can see here that we had the WXY in the wave B, W up, X down, and Y up, also in a 3-wave structure, and then 3 waves structure, right? Now we have seen a move to the downside where we have possible 1 2 1 2 3 4 5 4 5, right? Very terribly drawn. 1 2 1 2 3 4 5 4 5. So that is what we've seen at the moment, and we are now looking at possibility of forming this wave 2. Right, followed by this we would see lower prices on the chart. So we can see here that we are making on the 15-minute time frame a possible 5-wave structure up, a 1 2 3 4 and wave 5, and we might see something like this followed by this and then a move towards the downside, right? This wave 2 could finish a lot sooner than this line extends, but we'll see where that ends. It could be a longer wave 2. Then often over the weekend, what I've noticed is we have quite a bit of movement nowadays, right? So we don't actually have just that standard wave 4 that we expect, something like a 1 2 3 on the Friday and then a 4 on the weekend and then the 5. We actually are seeing quite a massive move or price action over the weekend. I mean, this entire rally here was built over the weekend, right? So you can see, or maybe from this rally here, Saturday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, this entire move here. So price is actually moving on the weekends instead of just hovering around. So we could see something along the lines of 1 2 today and then start of the 3, possible 4 over the Friday 5, and then a 4-5 on the weekend, finishing that move and then moving back towards the upside, right? This is what I currently view Bitcoin's main scenario. Then on our second scenario, the only other scenario that I'm able to build at the moment, besides us hitting their Y and then turning around and going to all-time highs, is this double 1-2 here. Now, this is the most bearish scenario on the chart, and we are not wanting this to happen. If you are, why is the chart going like this? Let's see here. So, where we have a 1 to the downside, 2 up, and then we are now looking for much, much lower prices on the chart, right? We are not looking for this level here, should be in the WXY. We are looking for massive moves to the downside where the bull market is actually then currently over, right? Where we did indeed stick to that 4-year cycle theorem. We have the high just before the 4 years, and then we move a lot lower to the downside where we have possible 1, 2, 1, 2, and then big moves down to around the $60,000 or $50,000 level. As a bull, you are not hoping this happens, and you are hoping that you invalidate this by taking this high at $116,000, right? That is what you would be looking for as a bull. Then just to look at the trend lines on the chart, as the trend lines have indeed actually made quite a big difference to our trading strategy this last period of time. We are still seeing that this big trend line holds over the entire course of the bull run, and we are likely maybe going to see that 3, 4, 5 touch and then head higher from about that $98,000, $97,000 region, right? Remember, we can see a touch of a trend line, also a fake out and break back into the range, so just keep an eye for that. We then had this triangle that broke out, but here is the other trend lines, and this trend line is actually holding very, very nicely. What wouldn't be very cool if you're a bear and expecting this low is if we actually had a 1, 2, 1, 2 and multiple, and then a breakout to the upside. Some terrible 1-2s that Bitcoin loves to form, but that would be if this trend line does indeed hold, right? If we do break below this trend line and this low at $103,000 is taken, that scenario is then invalidated, right? So do look for trend lines like this to trade off of. We also have this converging area over here on the downward sloping trend line that might be quite an impactful area if we see a break like that, right? So be very, very watchful of these trend lines on the chart. Now, for trade possibilities on the 4-hourly time frame, right? The main scenario on the chart is that we are still heading lower, right? What I am currently doing is setting up positions where I am investing in some form of a triangle, right? Where I put lower and smaller positions towards that $102,000 to $103,000 level, starting at this low at $103,500. Followed by this, at lower levels, I'm putting slightly larger positions, right? Larger position, larger position, larger position, right? And then having a clear invalidation point set by you, right? Where I would say around $90,000, we are possibly hitting in a lot lower prices than just this WXY, right? So this is how I am currently investing or setting up my orders for this movement on the chart. But if you do this, beware, right? If we do crash through this and we are then heading into the bear market, this scenario is going to fail. But this is my main trade possibility where we long, aiming for that last move up in the bull market, aiming for that $140,000 region, right? That is the last move that I believe we are going to see this cycle. But guys, thank you so much for watching. Do subscribe down below and join the Discord to see updates every single day. But It's been Max Trades Crypto. Cheers, guys.